Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, taking another fun and exciting video for you guys today because it seems like in the last 14 days, PlayStation 3 emulation just absolutely exploded, not only on the console side with RPCS 3, but also on the arcade side of things with Namco 357 and 359. Because about 10 days ago, I did a video on Teknoparrot talking about a lot of these games were now able to be emulated on your PC with full controls. Well, in that time, about 36 hours ago, Teknoparrot updated again, bringing us basically every single PlayStation 3 arcade game on those Namco boards, starting off with Razing Storm. If you're wondering why I'm not calling it Time Crisis Razing Storm, that is because in the arcades it wasn't actually a Time Crisis game, at least in title. It only got that moniker when it came home on PlayStation 3. And honestly, the performance here in the arcades can be slightly better on this hardware as well, and this was a game that definitely gave people a lot of hell trying to get running down to the I.O. board, which would mean that you could run the game, but you couldn't control anything inside of it. Now with the most recent update on Teknoparrot, you're going to be able to play Razing Storm from start to finish with one light gun or two light guns, however you want. You can set it up with an analog controller, you can use your mouse, send in light gun, or for me, I use gun for IR for pretty much all of my light gun captures. Well, this was definitely the final boss of PlayStation 3 arcade emulation as far as actually getting controls working are concerned, because a lot of times you'll get a game running, but that I.O. is custom and outside of the actual PlayStation 3 hardware, so you do need to do some more reverse engineering to actually be able to control that game. And on a lot of the arcade dumps that I have released with people and made playable, basically the I.O. is the number one thing that you really have to worry about, because running a game is only half the battle. You actually want to be able to play it. But honestly, I just love seeing this level of attention and care put into PlayStation 3 emulation, whether it's on consoles with that big RPCS 3 update from last week, or on the Teknoparrot side of things with the arcade games. This just makes me happy because even though this did come out on PlayStation 3 proper, the arcade version does have some slight differences, and because it can be played, damn it, you know I'm going to want to have to play it. Because when it comes to arcade emulation, you know I cannot get enough of that. And the nice thing is, this isn't just running games that we do technically have on console, because obviously we have Time Crisis, Razing Storm, but we also have stuff like Dark Escape 4D, a game from Namco in the horror genre, kind of a la House of the Dead, that never actually got ported over to any console. So for most of the games here on Teknoparrot, they are going to be arcade exclusive, like AKB48 here. Well, technically it's Sailor Zombie, but I'm just shortening it. These are games that never really saw proper home ports in one way or another, and some of the games definitely just have some changes in them, which make the arcade version more appealing to play. But let's take a look at one of the newly working games in Teknoparrot on the RPCS 3 side of things. This is Tekken 6. And I know what you're thinking, that got ported home to PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, and that is technically half true. In the arcades, the original Tekken 6 released, and then Bloodline Rebellion was an upgrade to that. When it was ported home, they took Bloodline Rebellion and basically called that Tekken 6 for home console. So this version of the game is going to be different than the one you played if you just have it on your actual Xbox or PlayStation 3. And that is amazing, not only from a preservation standpoint to be able to have these games playable so easily in Teknoparrot, but also just because in some ways I kind of like the overall storyline vibes here in vanilla Tekken 6 than I do in Rebellion. Leave me a comment down below and you tell me, have you ever played the arcade version of Tekken 6, or do you even know it existed? Because a lot of times I find out that a lot of people don't realize that sometimes these things change between the arcade and the home market. And the best thing about RPCS 3 being in Teknoparrot is all of the setup decisions have been made for you. All you're going to do is select windowed or full screen. You can select the back end, OpenGL or Vulkan, and you select your controller inputs and bind them in Teknoparrot. But all of the heavy lifting, all of the settings that you'd have to do by hand in RPCS 3 if you're trying to run these on the actual arcade fork, which is hard to find, are taken care of for you. And I think that is the number one thing. People want to sit down, they want to have fun, they want to play, and they don't want to have to think about spending 15-20 minutes of toggling settings and testing things just to be able to sit down and play some Tekken 6. So right now, if you just go ahead and update your Teknoparrot installation, you'll have support for this game. It will work. All you need to do is add the game files, bind your controls, and start having fun. Just remember, you are going to have a system high enough spec to be able to run these things at full speed, and for a baseline, I am on an i9-12900K overclocked on a water cooler with 64 gigabytes of RAM and a 3080 Ti, which would have been pretty high end about a couple years ago, but now is definitely mid to high end still, but not the top spec. But a soundtrack sample one time, go ahead and listen for 45 seconds and come back as I'll show you more games that work now.
Let's go! Round one. Fight! win. Round 2. Fight.
I mean, obviously it sounds great because it is still using the back end of RPCS. These, you're getting all that great performance, except you're getting it in Teknoparrot, and you are getting the arcade fork of the emulation as well. Because just like PlayStation 2 emulation, there are arcade boards out there that run on the same hardware that just don't have the same level of support because they are a pivot. And I know people always ask about when PCSX2 is going to support the arcade games, and apparently at least on the mainline fork that is never going to happen, just down to how they have to kind of reverse engineer and bypass that arcade security. Moving back to Razing Storm here, this game is just absolutely incredible from start to finish. It has so much destructibility in the environments. It is maybe one of my favorite Lycan games of all time, not in the horror genre. And again, this is available on PlayStation 3 along with Dead Storm Pirates, and you can also even get it with Time Crisis 4, but it's one of those things. Having the arcade version is a little bit more fun just because it has a little bit better performance, because you could eke out a little more on this hardware in arcades, at least from how I understand it, than you could at home. But this is basically the last generation as well, where home consoles really ended up in arcade cabinets. I do not know of any single PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5 based arcade games out there. I've never heard mention of them, so odds are they just don't exist. Now basically everything is a PC in a box, but the performance here is just absolutely mind-blowing. And again, getting the I/O board actually working in emulation was probably not easy whatsoever, because companies like Namco do a lot with those I/O boards. In some ways, they can be almost as complicated as the console that's actually running, with all the different security features and ways they actually take those inputs and parse them over to the PlayStation 3. Let's trust me, this isn't just a light gun on a cabinet plugged in USB into the front of that PlayStation 3. There is a lot more going on under the hood. And if I remember, I will leave a link in the description below to one of my PlayStation 2 arcade boards that uses a full fat PlayStation 2 in a metal box, but a massive custom I/O from Konami, showing just how complicated it can truly be. I will say the number one thing for all the light gun games here, including Razing Storm, is the fact that all of the calibration is just dead on the money. I did not have to change anything whatsoever. I just selected my mouse cursor as the input method, configured the buttons for the trigger as well as the shield, and I was off to the races, or in this instance off to the firefight, with no issues about the actual aiming whatsoever. But it's soundtrack sample 2 time 45 seconds. I'll be right back and tell you how you can play this today if you actually want to. I mean, it sounds absolutely perfect to me, and I just recently played Razing Storm at the Minnesota State Fair in their arcade there, and the gun had such bad aim. Honestly, at this point in time, unless you find a really well-maintained cabinet, playing it via emulation is going to just be the more fun way to play. You can just sit down, you can enjoy yourself, and not really think about the aim is 2 inches off to the left. When I played, it definitely drove me nuts, and I left that credit, basically walked away and didn't bother playing, because if you can't aim successfully, it really isn't all that fun. And just so you know, I didn't capture footage for them because I have no rhythm whatsoever, but all of the drum games, those Taiko drum masters that you love, are going to be able to work on this as well. So basically everything Namco 357 and 359 are 100% playable in Teknoparrot today. And before you ask, they are not on subscription in any way, shape, or form. They are free. All you need to do is set it up, add the files, and you're going to be able to play them. And if you want an RPCS 3 for Teknoparrot specifically tutorial, leave me a comment down below as well. It really isn't that hard, but if you're getting tripped up, maybe I'll make that in the future. Or if you're on my Patreon, maybe I'll just make a little guide up there for you on the Emulation Night School tier. But this is amazing stuff. PlayStation 3 emulation keeps getting good in 2025, whether it's the console version standalone RPCS 3 or this arcade fork in Teknoparrot. It works, it's a ton of fun, and you have to stop thinking about that it's emulation. Just start thinking about the fact that you're playing fun games, you're having a great time, and that's all you really need when it comes to this sort of stuff. Leave me a comment down below and you tell me, have you tried RPCS 3 and Teknoparrot yet? Based upon my videos, are you still waiting around? But we're done. That's the video. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
ready for the next battle.